Hey, good morning, guys. It is November 14th, and Chambers is in Genesis, which has a ton of cool stories in it. This one I really like. It is the story of Abraham's servant being sent to fetch a wife for his son Isaac, which is a really interesting story. Isaac doesn't go along, Abraham doesn't go along, um, but Abraham wants to be sure that he finds a wife for his son among his relatives, which these days would be a little bit weird, but back then it made a ton of sense. So, common culture, common lineage, common values. So he sends him, and then the servant, in the spirit of Abraham, trusts God to bring him the right person, so that he doesn't have to wonder and look and she comes, and then he gives this prayer. Praise be to the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives. So he gives thanks that God brought Rebecca to him. It's a really interesting story, and maybe a good one for young men who are looking for a spouse. Send your parents' servant to go get a spouse. I'm sorry, that's a joke. Don't actually do that. We don't have servants, but um, Chambers takes that and says the notion that we don't constantly have to be asking, Lord, what would you have me do? Lord, what would you have me do? Lord, what would you have me do? That because we are so connected to the Spirit of God, there's this constant direction, constant weaving together God's will and our life. That they just kind of weave together as we go, as we move forward. The will of God and the life of the saint kind of just create this natural woven strand, if that makes sense. And he says we have to be so one with God that we do not continually need to ask for guidance. Can you imagine if you said, "Hey, you need to go to Roanoke, so jump on 250, heading west to the 64 interstate, and then head 64 west, head down to 81, and just head south for a couple hours. You'll be in Roanoke." And if I gave you those instructions, and then you stopped at the gas station and said, "Hey, am I headed the right way to 250 West? Oh, yeah, it's down there." And then you were on 250 West, and you stop somewhere and you say, "Hey, am I headed the right way?" And every time you got to another place, you were constantly stopping and saying, "Hey, am I going the right direction? Hey, am I going the right direction? Hey, am I going?" I think it's kind of what Chambers is saying here, is if we are in tune with the Spirit of God, and I think a lot of that has to do with just studying His Word, and being prayerful in our attitudes, that God directs us. He directs us. He directs things in, like I said, this natural woven strand of our life and His will, if we are in communication and connection with Him. So, I think that's what Chambers is getting at here. And he says, on looking back, we see the presence of an amazing design. When we look back, we see that woven strand. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. In all honesty, when you're, I remember when I was a little boy watching girls braid each other's hair, and it looked like chaos. But when you look up at the top and you see, and you're saying, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And it's kind of the same way that God's will in our life, kind of sometimes, some days, just doesn't make. It feels like chaos. But when we look back, we see these strands woven together in a way that we say, "Oh, I can trust him. I trust him." We see the presence of an amazing design. And it says, never allow that the haphazard is anything less than God's appointed order, and be ready to discover the divine designs everywhere. And so sometimes when things just happen coincidentally, it's not coincidence. If we are saints and we're following God's design, and we are seeking after God, it is not coincidence. The one consistency of the saint is not to a principle, but to the divine life. And then he ends with this: it is easier to be a fanatic than a faithful soul, faithfully serving, because there's something amazingly humbling, particularly to our religious conceit, in being loyal to God. And so this taking the next step, taking the next step, taking the next step, taking the next step. And when we look behind us, Brandon and I talk about this all the time. When people are like, "Hey, tell us your story." Our story is crazy. It's chaotic. The story of how we met, dated, were engaged, broke it off, were engaged again, and got married. It's chaotic. Like it was beautifully chaotic, but in the moment, it seemed like nothing was orchestrated. But when we look behind us, we say, "Oh, God wove two hearts together in a way that was spectacular." I think it's just an encouragement to maybe to young people, if you guys are wondering what God's doing. Trust and walk faithfully. And when you look in the rearview mirror one day, you'll see something beautiful. You guys have an awesome day.